that mentality of souls on board and the fact that you're responsible and you're accountable for those people, I think that changes everything. So what's the most important job of a leader? I bet you have a lot of different answers popping in your head. I'm going to talk to you about what I think, but in order to do that first, I want to go back in time a couple weeks to a conversation I was having with a really good friend, John Felkins. John Felkins is a really key leader within EntreLeadership. That's part of Dave Ramsey's company. And we actually did a podcast with him, which will be dropping here in a few days. And it's one of my favorite podcasts. But in that discussion, he was asking all about care and what's care all about. And in the course of that discussion, one of the things that I was talking about was why care is so needed in the world today. And one of the things that I had just recently read was this story about Jack Dorsey. He's the founder of Twitter, and now he's got a company called Block. It's this tech company. It's not really important what they all do, but what was really something that jumped out to me was in one tweet and one email, he let go of 6,000 of 10,000 employees. And in that letter, which he had really, intentionally and thoroughly crafted to try to be as positive as possible when you're letting go of 60% of your workforce, he actually cited some surprising things to me. Number one is the company wasn't hurting. He said the company was strong. And he said that they'd been noticing that smaller teams and AI and automation had really allowed them to perform better. And so rather than letting people go sort of piecemeal over the next couple of years, that he thought it was better to do it in one big fell swoop. And then at the end, he calls on all the remaining 4,000, 40% of the workforce to build with him. And what they were building really mattered. And of course, the thing that was unsaid that was going through my brain was build with them until what? Until we can let go of 60% more of the workforce. So this was really concerning when I was reading about this, because you continually read in the news about people finding ways, usually through automation, efficiency, logistics, et cetera, this idea of that reducing your workforce is this really big win. And that was really concerning. And as I was telling that to John, and how I feel the opposite, and of course I knew John did too, he was sharing to me a story and a concept that began in sort of the maritime world on ships and then gravitated towards aviation. And it was this idea that the captain of the ship or the captain of the airplane, particularly when there's an emergency, will radio in to headquarters or to air traffic control. And one of the things that they will talk about is how many souls on board that they have, okay? So in this particular story, I think it was a female pilot, she was radioing in to air traffic control, and she was saying that we have 176 souls on board. And John didn't even have to say it. Immediately, it hit me, the clarity that brought, the weight that brought of the responsibility of the leader. Is these are souls, these are human beings on board. And what was sort of unsaid in the idea of being a ship at sea or in an airplane in the air is that you can't cut those souls on board, right? What are you gonna do? You don't have parachutes. You're just gonna tell everybody to jump off of the airplane. You're gonna tell everybody to jump in the ocean. They're gonna die. Those souls are going to die. They're going to be in jeopardy. And of course, in those two environments, that can't happen. You've got to get them safely to shore. You've got to get them safely on the ground. And so I actually looked up the history of souls on board, which is super interesting. It's never been formally instituted, and yet it has been around for hundreds of years. But here's a couple things that's jumped out to me was the psychological weight of the phrase souls on board. It carries a sense of accountability and gravity. You're responsible for every life on board. These aren't just numbers, these are lives, human beings, souls. The phrase carries a sobering tone. It reminds pilots and controllers that they're responsible for all the lives, much more so than logistics. So all of a sudden, these people, they aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, which quite honestly, when I read that email from Jack Dorsey, that's what it sounded like. It was 6,000 was sort of nebulous and ambiguous, and it was just a number. It wasn't 6,000 souls that he was talking about in his letter. And then, of course, that made me think about the number one job of a leader. And that this weight, this psychological weight, this gravity of souls on board, and the fact that you're responsible for those human beings, that's the most important job of a leader, in my opinion. A leader in a home, of a family, a parent, a leader within a friend group, a leader of yourself, certainly a leader of your people if you're a CEO or you're a team lead, is that mentality of souls on board and the fact that you're responsible and you're accountable for those people. I think that changes everything. Now, logistics, automation, AI, those things are okay. They're not bad things, but they're not the ultimate things. Those souls on board, those are the ultimate things. And what would happen if we switched our mentality? What would happen if leaders in all their different respective environments, what if they had this idea that my number one job is to steward and be responsible for these souls on board? What would happen versus my number one thing is to get us more efficient? My number one thing is to really shore up our logistics. My number one thing is to get a few more basis points on profitability. Are you kidding me? We would never have that mentality if our mentality was souls on board. Well, anyways, that's kind of what CARE's all about. That's what we're trying to do with this movement. We're not against things like profitability or logistics or efficiency or even automation or AI. They have their place. They are a thing, but they are not the ultimate thing. The ultimate thing are souls on board and serving those souls on board. And when you're a leader, and let me tell you something, everybody's a leader. In some ways, you got to lead yourself first. Then you've got other people that you lead in your family or in your business, okay? If you're a leader, souls on board is the most important thing. Everything else is there to serve that. So spend some time thinking about it. What's the most important job of the leader? See where you land. For me, it's souls on board. What's it for you? Listen, guys, movements are built on connection. If this resonated, share it and join the conversation. Hit that subscribe button or check the show notes where you can follow me on all my socials. Or check out more about the movement at vortexcare.com. Let's build something rare together.